I know that as soon as I say the word soulmate, that the reaction among my listeners is going to vary widely, that some of you will embrace it. You will know from personal experience or intuition that soulmates are real and that the rest of this discussion can unfold naturally as I go into dreams about soulmates. But for some of you, this is a subject which will be met with skepticism. You will be much like me when I first encountered this subject. You will say, "Show me. Is there a peer-reviewed, double-blind study out there? Can you show me facts that prove to me that soulmates are real, that it is not just wishful thinking or overactive imagination?" I was like that 20 years ago when I encountered this subject. I was open-minded to it, but at the same time, I had no evidence to back it. So when someone said the word soulmate, it brought up conflicting reactions in me. Well, on the one hand, I wanted to believe that there is such a thing. I was searching for it myself. But on the other hand, I said, I don't want to be fooled by something, even if it is commonly believed. It doesn't mean that I have to believe it. So, like with any subject, that it falls outside of the norm, I suggest that you approach it with healthy skepticism, but not skepticism that closes your mind. Because if you were like me, you will find that when you seek answers, when you knock at the door, that the door will open, that you will be led to the personal experience, the knowledge, the information that you need to be able to reach your own conclusions and to feel comfortable with them. I will get back in a moment to the subject of where to find more information about soulmates that you can explore for yourself. First, though, I want to pose a question. Wouldn't it be great if soulmates really exist? Whether or not you believe that it's true, whether you believe that soulmates exist, wouldn't it be great if they really do exist? Just step back for a moment and consider that question. Consider the idea that the man or woman of your dreams is a flesh and blood living human being. Well, I'm going to give you the evidence that I have accumulated through dreams that shows that you really can be shown a person of your dreams in your dreams and then meet that person later in life. In some cases, that person is already part of your life, and that recognizing them as a soulmate gives you more depth to the relationship and a framework for understanding it. Soulmate relationships are widely misunderstood. The notion out there is that a soulmate is a person who you will meet and love forever after, that it is the fairy tale story come true, that the prince meets his princess, the princess meets her prince, and they are perfect for each other in every way, and that their relationship is perfect in every way. I'm here to tell you that that is a fanciful notion, that there is a germ of truth to it, that soulmate relationships are very special and they have the potential to evolve into what you might call the perfect relationship, what you might call living the dream. But soulmate relationships come in many forms, shapes, sizes, and types. Soulmates can be parents, their children, siblings, friends, grandparents, and other relatives. Your soulmate might be the person that you broke up with in a very heated and painful sort of way. And in some way, some level, it was meant to be that you were not going to spend your lives with each other. It was not going to be happy forever after, that you had something to teach each other that is particularly painful. Many soulmate relationships are painful, and in fact, the deepest soulmate relationships sometimes are the most painful relationships. And if you know that a soulmate means not only that you have incarnated together in past lives, but you were together between earthly lives, and that you planned your relationship ahead of time in your next life here on earth in body, that you planned the circumstances, that you knew that there was a very hard lesson that you needed to learn, and that your soulmate is the one who volunteered to help you through it, to teach it to you. Now you have a whole nother dimension that opens up, a whole new understanding of soulmate relationships. Perhaps it bursts the bubble. Soulmate relationships aren't always unicorns and fairies and butterflies. Soulmate relationships are sometimes deep and dark and wet. Sometimes they end tragically. The kind of ending that makes the evening news. But that doesn't have to be. It's just something that happens because, yes, soulmates, relationships, they come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes soulmates are our most difficult relationships. Even your rivals and enemies can be soulmates. A soulmate is simply someone who comes into this world with you to be part of each other's lives for a brief time or a lifetime. It can be for love and for sharing, for sex, for caring, but most of all, it's for growth and for wholeness. And sometimes we need to be broken before we can be made whole. And that tells you why some of your soulmate relationships can be the most difficult. Soulmates help us grow, and growth is often spurred through adversity. Soulmate relationships can be our most difficult and challenging. But in the big picture, every experience that helps us grow is worth it. I have learned through my 20 years of studying this subject that we incarnate into this world with a purpose in mind. There is a mission, a plan, but it's up to us to follow through. It's very easy to get sidetracked while you're living this life and forget that there is this deeper level to it, that there is a lesson or many lessons, that you have a plan or a mission. Soulmates reincarnate with us during multiple lifetimes to carry out that plan. We help them, they help us. If you do not know that reincarnation is real, that it has been studied scientifically, and that there are thousands of reports in a massive body of evidence that supports the reality of reincarnation, I suggest that you check out the research of Dr. Jim Tucker. I know Dr. Tucker. I speak with him by email every once in a while because I am the moderator of the Past Lives Forum and the Reincarnation Forum at reddit.com. And I encounter some of these very interesting accounts from people that I pass on to Dr. Tucker so that he can use it in his research. He is a professor at the University of Virginia in an endowed chair That chair was once occupied by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was the trailblazer into the scientific study of reincarnation. And through the work of Doctors Tucker and Stevenson, we now have a body of evidence that is massive. And it is convincing. You need to check it out for yourself. Please do. I don't ask any of you to accept anything that I say with blind acceptance. As I said at the opening of this conversation, that I know that when I say the word soulmate, now we can include the word reincarnation with that the reaction to it will vary widely. It will depend upon your frame of reference. It will depend upon whether you are open-minded to the subject, whether you are closed-minded to it, whether you have personal experience with it or not. Find out for yourself. That is the best way of exploring anything in this world. Do not accept anything with blind faith. So now I'm going to get into what I have experienced with soulmates, specifically through dreams and dreaming. And this was sparked by a post that I found at reddit.com. A young woman had an amazing experience, and it begins with a recurring dream. She's strapped to a boulder that is the size of the earth. This is a dream. She senses someone strapped to the other side of the boulder. She feels hopeless about ever knowing this person, with a world full of people standing between them. If either of them move out of unison, they both will die. In the second part of the dream, she sees a gate with no fence and a setting that's heavenly. She senses presences there, and they make her accept their power. With their power, she starts to see artwork in her mind's eye. The artwork has very distinct styling. It's beautiful. You can see an example of it at my website, dreams123.net. Use the search box to look for soulmates. Type that term in, and you will be taken to the article that I wrote about soulmates and the many links that I've included there to the stuff that we are discussing here, such as links to Dr. Tucker's website. And I have a picture there that shows the artwork that this young woman saw in her recurring dream. It is very distinct, and it is beautiful. She wakes up from this recurring dream, and she has a feeling that the man that she senses in the dream, the artist, is someone who is alive on this planet somewhere, and that she will find him through his artwork. So she searches, and she searches with this wonderful thing that we call the internet. We can now display our art, our writing, our music, ourselves, our blogs, our histories, our biographies. So we are out there, and other people can find us. But if they don't know your name and they don't know where you are, then they have to find some other means of finding you. So she searches, and she searches for this artwork. She searches websites that are dedicated to artwork. There's no guarantee that this artist has shared his work online. There's no guarantee that the recurring dreams that she had about this artist and his art are real in the sense of how she's interpreted them. I know as a dream interpreter that dreams can use all kinds of fantastic ways of telling you stories. I have found dreams that featured God and heaven and hell and subjects such as that, and the stories in those dreams are entirely personal. God, for example, can be used by a dream as a way of delivering information that is sure to get your attention. It comes from the mouth of God, but it is not God speaking to you, at least directly, in the dream. God is used as a character in a story, and the purpose is to make sure that you listen, that you pay attention. So, this woman who has this recurring dream, she goes about looking for the artist and his artwork with no guarantee that she's going to find him. And it sure looks like she won't find him after she's been searching for weeks. But finally, one day at a website where artists share their work, she finds the picture that she's already seen in her dream. She finds several of them, in fact, and she looks up the artist. And he is the man who is strapped to the other side of the boulder, the earth-sized boulder in her dream. But she doesn't contact him. In fact, she just follows his work and sees as he posts new stuff online. Finally, one day, she works up the courage to contact him. And an amazing thing happens. He says, "I've been waiting for you." He too has this sense of a person being out there somewhere in the world who is trying to reach him, someone who is connected to him through lifetimes, through a very special bond that we call soulmates. He shows her things that he has written about her before he even knew that she was alive and existed in this world. It turns out that on this website where he posted his work, that of all the places in the world where he could have been anywhere in the world, that is the nature of our internet, as people from all over the world can post to the same site. Turns out that he lived 30 miles away from the woman that had the dream about him. That is a remarkable coincidence, if you want to call it coincidence. 30 miles away. I mean, that's within an hour's drive on country roads. Now, I don't know exactly what has transpired between these two. I do know that it sure seems like they had a good beginning with each other, that there was a relationship that was like a seed that was ready to sprout and grow. It is springtime, you have plenty of water and sunshine, and that seed is going to sprout, it's going to grow, it's going to be healthy and strong. That's what you would hope. But there is no guarantee. As I said in the opening, sometimes soulmate relationships are very difficult. Sometimes they can even end tragically. I think also that people want to believe that there are soulmates and that they can easily jump to this conclusion. I find this a lot with people who discuss soulmates. They think, oh, I just met him last night, but we have such a deep connection. He must be a soulmate. Well, I think that is more likely to be a crush or an infatuation. But it does express a hope about finally meeting the person, the one, who will enrich your life, who will bring love into your life, someone that you can share your life with. And that, to me, is healthy. So even though there is a misunderstanding behind the search of some people for their soulmate, that they might be prone to jumping to conclusions, that essentially there is a healthy drive that is behind this, because what they're really looking for is true love. Oftentimes, the road to finding your soulmate begins with believing it's possible. My mentor, Larry Pesavento, asked me that question when I was in a deep, dark place in my life, in my love life. I had been through having my heart broken many times. I had been through many disappointments. And I was starting to become jaded. And I was talking to him on the phone about this. And Larry said, Jason, do you think that there is a soulmate out there waiting for you? Do you still believe it's possible? Is this something that you still want? And I said, yes, Larry, it is something I want. And he said, you need to make a decision. You can either go on for the rest of your days, going from relationship to relationship and ending in the same disappointment because you will not find in that relationship what you're looking for. Or you can say to yourself with absolute certainty that you know that your soulmate is out there, or I should say a soulmate, the type of soulmate that I wanted, which was in that romantic sense. And that you desire to have it, to find it, to be it. And it was hard, but I knew the wisdom of what he was telling me. And I said, yes, Larry, I will affirm that. And soon after, I found that the person I was looking for, my romantic soulmate, was already in my life. But I had to change before I could open my eyes and see. These sorts of synchronous experiences are what chiseled away at my skepticism. 20 years ago, when I encountered Brian Weiss's book, Only Love is Real, I was skeptical about the whole ball of wax, soulmates, reincarnation. But Dr. Weiss was a source, the first source that I found that I could be comfortable with, because Dr. Weiss is a psychiatrist, a medically trained scientist who found that his patients were reporting memories of things that were not part of the lives that they're living now. And that there was truth to it. He did not accept it blindly. He looked for other explanations, like a good rationalist, materialist, someone trained in the material sciences. He said, there must be another explanation for this. But as patient after patient described these memories of other lives that they had lived, and he explored in a clinical setting with them those memories, and then as experiences unfolded where those patients then found people in their lives through sometimes the most amazing and apparently coincidental ways, Dr. Weiss and his skepticism changed. And then he wrote the book, Only Love is Real. He wrote Many Lives, Many Masters. Only Love is Real is a remarkable story. It has some apparent coincidences in it that are almost beyond the ability to say that it has to be coincidence. There are some coincidences that are too coincidental. In this case, he had two patients that he was seeing separately who were soulmates from past lives, and that while under light hypnosis, they described memories of those lives that they shared with each other. Dr. Weiss ended up helping them to come together, but it wasn't through his direct actions. Everything he tried to bring them together ended up at a dead end, but the universe said, "You've done your part, now let me take it from here." And he put them together on a flight, an airplane flight that encountered some turbulence, and these two people were seated next to each other. And during a particularly tense moment, their hands met. Well, I shouldn't give away the book, should I? It is a fascinating read. I encourage you to look it up and explore for yourself. I do not blindly accept the reality of soulmates. People can make themselves believe things that are not true. But as I have learned through personal experience, through the experiences of people such as Dr. Weiss, through the research of people such as Ian Stevenson and Jim Tucker, I now know that I am on solid ground as I discuss this subject. And for those of you who out there who also know that this is real, either through experience or just intuition, you'll be glad to know that I'm going to now move on into some other cases where people have dreamed about their soulmates and have even been brought together through remarkable coincidences. Although I have found out that coincidence can be meaningful, it can be purposeful, it can be arranged by some larger thing that's out there that is participating in our lives with us. And it wants us to find love. It wants us to learn and grow. Dr. Bernie Beitman, Beitman, wrote a book called Connecting with Coincidence, where he explores this meaningful coincidence that we know of as synchronicity. It is a term, a concept that was introduced by Dr. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, the famous dream interpreter. I will tell you now that Dr. Beitman's book is very well worth the read, and that he says that if you want to make it more possible for you to encounter a soulmate in your life, and you have been in a routine for a while that has not led you to that person, to that relationship, then you need to shake things up. You need to change things. Sometimes it can be as simple as taking a different route home from work, of taking the other road that you never travel, of doing something different, of making that decision that you are going to change something about your life, and that it will open up doors of opportunity to be brought together with someone out there who is the person of your dreams. Be careful, because falling in love in a dream doesn't usually mean soulmate. This is something I have encountered many times at dream forums and in my discussions one-on-one with people about their dreams. They will dream that they fall in love, and it's entirely personal. The character that they fall in love with is an actor in a story. It is meant to be desirable to you. It is meant to be attractive, because what the dream is ultimately doing is helping you to form deeper bonds with yourself. It's helping you to love yourself. Sometimes first, though, we need to love something that is external, whether it is a boyfriend, girlfriend, a spouse, and other forms of love, such as with friends, with parents, siblings. But ultimately, when you have dreams about falling in love, you should look first toward the possibility that what the dream is actually showing you is some aspect of yourself or the big picture of yourself, and that the bond, the attraction, the love that you feel for that dream character is ultimately leading you to having the same feelings, the same sort of relationship with yourself. Dream characters. This is a subject to explore for you. You can go to my website, dreams123.com. Look on the sidebar for my lesson about dream characters. It is extensive and it is enlightening because dream characters tend to be personifications of our interior world, our inner lives. And as you interact with a dream character in a dream, you realize usually what's really happening is you are interacting with some part of yourself. I want to give an example. You know, when people have these sorts of dreams and they are looking for love in their lives, they are looking for soulmates, they tend to interpret dreams about falling in love or having deep attraction as some kind of higher guidance, as some kind of message that this person is part of their lives. It's especially confusing when the dream character looks like someone who is already part of your life. Dreams are known for pulling in the image, the form of people that we know and turning them into dream characters. And then we interact with them. And when that interaction hints at love, it's easy to jump to the conclusion that it must be love. It's easy to forget that it's a character in a story. For example, a woman dreams about deep attraction forming with a coworker. This is a person that she actually works with. She works with closely. And it causes her issues because she doesn't date coworkers. This is a line that she drew and she sticks to it. What she actually sees in the dream is a way of symbolizing the powerful work chemistry that they have with each other. Work chemistry is shown in the dream as personal chemistry, as love chemistry, but it's simply a way of saying you two are a good team. You work well together. There is a chemistry to you where the sum of what you produce is greater than its parts. I found this in another dream recently where a woman, a coworker, writes a letter to her in the dream and he confesses his love to her. And it turns out what the dream is really about is loving her work, loving her career, loving her work environment, enjoying her coworkers. Love in this dream is really love for what she does. But it's shown in the dream as confessions of love from a coworker. Like most people who have a dream like that, she was quite confused. She thought, is there something here that I am overlooking? Does this person have hidden feelings for me? Am I being led to something or shown something that I need to know? Well, yes, but it's not what she thinks. What she really needs to know is the depth of her feeling about her work. When I first proposed the idea to her that what the dream is really saying is that she loves her work, I asked her first, I said, how do you feel about your work? And she said, I like it. I enjoy it. Said, does it go any deeper than that? And she didn't recognize it at the time, but she came back a couple days later and she said, I've been thinking about what you said. And I realize now, yeah, I really do love my work. The dream connects her with that deeper layer of feeling. And now she will be able to take it, to use it, to apply it. She will ride that wave further in her career. She will love her work, and that will translate to more energy and more of herself that she can give to it. You can fall in love with a subject, with an idea, with a creative venture, and dream about it as falling in love with a person. Ultimately, the characters that you fall in love with represent something about yourself that you love. It promotes internal unity and bonding. As we get even deeper into the subject of love and dreams and falling in love with dream characters, we inevitably come back to what Dr. Carl Jung taught about two very fascinating characters in the psyche that tend to appear in dreams as love characters. They are called anima and animus. They are basically the same thing, but they have variations depending upon your gender. If you are a male, then the woman of your dreams is your anima. And if you are female, the man of your dreams is animus. I won't say in all cases that that's what it is, but I do know that these dream characters appear through a lifetime of dreams and dreaming, that your relationship with them will evolve over time, and that the end goal of this relationship with anima or animus is a sort of marriage within the psyche, because anima and animus, what they really represent is the deepest layers of the mind. They represent the unconscious mind, which has a relationship with your conscious mind. It is the you that you see in your dreams. It is basically your ego. The job of the ego is to understand itself as part of a larger system, that it is a small part of a larger mind that is known as the unconscious, and that the ego wants to unite with the unconscious mind. It wants to unite with an anima or animus figure and what it actually represents. It wants to become whole and complete. Another way of viewing anima and animus is that they represent traditional characteristics and traits of the opposite gender that you can assimilate into your conscious personality. The guys out there, they can be more traditionally feminine, or at least in the sense of incorporating traditionally feminine traits into their personalities, such as intuition, cooperation, self-love, regulation of moods. And for the ladies out there, your animus is going to teach you to be more like a man in the sense of incorporating into your personality traditionally male traits such as assertiveness and strong opinion. You really can go deep with this when you consider that when we talk about masculine and feminine, ultimately behind the ways that those genders manifest in our world as personalities, there is actually, it begins with an energy that we know as yin and yang, the feminine principle of receiving and the masculine principle of giving. This was another one of those subjects like soulmates that I met with a little bit of skepticism first because it came from another culture. Yin and Yang is quote unquote Taoist. Reincarnation is quote unquote Buddhist or Hindu. And if you grew up in the Midwest, in Ohio, in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, as I did, and that's when your core beliefs were formed, then you'll know that things such as reincarnation and yin and yang and all that stuff, that was pretty foreign to you. It was not accepted by the people around you readily. That the people who did accept it tended to be viewed a little askew, let's just say. It was definitely not part of the mainstream. Let's get back to dreams about soulmates. I have some other examples for you, and I thank you for listening to all of this back discussion about this because I think that it's important knowing that you might approach this subject differently than I do or that your neighbor does. And I wanted to give you some of my background and point you towards resources for you to study so that you know that you don't have to walk into this blindly. But I want to plant the idea in your mind, if you are a skeptic, that your skepticism, at least in this case, if you are closed-minded to that extent, it might simply be denying yourself an experience that could be very enriching and rewarding. And all you need to do, at least initially, is to open yourself to the possibility. I have found that to be the first step to having experiences that are outside of the norm, personal experiences that change your life, that change your perspective. Let's get back to soulmates and dreams now. At least with the subject of soulmates, one of my main sources is Edgar Cayce, the psychic who had amazing ability to help people to heal, even if he never met them. All he had to do was go into a trance type state and seek them out in his mind, and he could see them. He could see into their bodies, and he could tell them what was going on inside there, and he could even suggest remedies if they needed them. This came from a man with an 8th grade education who knew very little about modern medicine, but when he went into that trance state, he was the greatest doctor that ever lived, at least in the sense of being able to know what was wrong with a person, what was wrong with their health, and to suggest a remedy for it. Mr. Cayce went on to popularize, or at least introduce into popular culture, the idea of reincarnation. He was a pioneer in this sense. He was a maverick. He did not readily accept reincarnation. It went against his strong Christian beliefs. But while he was in a trance state, he found that knowing about the lives that these people who sought his help, the lives they had lived previously, were impacting their lives now, and that there was information that they needed to help them either to heal or to grow, or, as often the case, both. Mr. Cayce was a remarkable man, and I appreciate the fact that he is a deep Christian and that he went into Scripture to find, is there any basis for knowing that reincarnation is real? Do the Scriptures say that this is real? And they do. His Bible, which he read from front to back, For every year he was alive, he read it through once. The Bible supported reincarnation, that there are scriptures in there, especially in the earlier versions of the Bible, before people were able to obscure those scriptures by changing what they really say during translation. In other words, we have translated out many of the passages that support reincarnation. But even if you read, say, the King James Version of the Bible, you will still find scriptures such as when Jesus says that John the Baptist is the reincarnation of the prophet Elijah. Casey had a lot to say about reincarnation, and it was through his teachings that reincarnation entered into popular American culture, and by extension into popular culture of the Western world. Outside of the Western world, reincarnation is accepted as fact. Not everywhere, but there are more people in the world who accept reincarnation as fact than there are people who do not accept it as fact. I want to give you a quote now. This is from Mr. Casey. He says, "A soulmate is an ongoing connection with another individual that the soul picks up again in various times and places over lifetimes. We are attracted to another person at a soul level, not because that person is our unique complement, but because by being with that individual, we are somehow provided with an impetus to become whole ourselves." That is not the popular way of imagining a soulmate. That is not what you find on a Hallmark card. That version of a soulmate is a wish. It is not the reality of what a soulmate really is. As Dr. Casey says, Dr. Casey. He was a doctor in many ways, but not in the formal sense. Mr. Casey says a soulmate is an ongoing connection with another individual that the soul picks up again in various times and places over lifetimes. Your dreams are very good at leading you to soulmates, of first introducing you to the reality of it and then leading you to the specifics of it. For me, the reality of it came to me in a dream that I had. I had read Dr. Weiss's book, Only Love is Real, and it sparked my imagination. It opened my mind enough to say, I need to know more about this. And I had a dream that I was in a restaurant next to a man who was morbidly obese. He had a plate of spaghetti in front of him, a huge mound of spaghetti, and he hoovered it down one strand of spaghetti at a time, just sucking it down. And I am revolted by the scene, or at least made very uncomfortable, when a waitress comes up to the table and she addresses me. She's very slow and deliberate in the way that she speaks, and before she's gotten 5 words out of her mouth, I am already growing impatient. And she says, "Yeah, this is what happened last time I tried to tell you about your past lives. You got angry and impatient, and, well, that's the end of the conversation." And in the dream, I remembered that I had seen this person before, this character, that she had tried to tell me about my past lives, and that as soon as the subject came up, it was met with a very strong negative reaction inside of me. That dream is what led me further. It gave me that first personal experience, something that hinted strongly that I was opening up a new door for personal exploration and that it was going to lead me to good places, that I was going to find what I seek. And from there, I continued to explore the subject, but now with a different mindset. The woman, the waitress in the dream, she gave me a name in the dream, one of the names from a past life that I have lived. It was familiar but foreign to me. And every time I tried to remember that name, it slipped away like a greased pig. And if you've ever tried to hold a greased pig that is struggling to get away, you know how impossible that is. I would be in the shower and the name would come to me. And by the time I got out of the shower, dashing to my notebook with a pen because that elusive name was right there, it slipped back down into the deep, dark parts of my memory. And this repeated again and again for the next couple of weeks after I had that dream. But I was determined. I felt inside of me that there was a critically important piece of information there. And I sought it. And I sought it. And finally, one day, that name came to me into my mind like a trumpet blast. The pronunciation of that name, the way that I heard it in my mind, is different than the way that it is commonly pronounced now. So if you look at the spelling of that name and the way that we pronounce it now as Darius, you would not recognize it the way that it was told to me in my dream. Darius, which is the Persian way of saying it. The Persian way of saying it 2,500 years ago. That's what started me on this journey. And it has led me to more names and more lives and more places and more people who are part of my life now, and I am part of their lives. And we share something that is special, a bond that stretches back through time to other lives that we have lived together. When you consider soulmates, I need you to think of it in terms of plural. We can have many soulmates, and they have various kinds of relationships. In one life, a soulmate could be a parent. In the next life, you are the parent. In the next life, you are siblings. In the next life, you are friends. In some lives, you could even be enemies or rivals. In some lives, you could even murder each other. This is the nature of soulmates. There's a dream that a man had about seeing a beautiful woman singing on stage in a small club. In the dream, he sees himself dressed in a military uniform. At that time, he was not in the military, but a few years later, he did join up, a few years after the dream. And while he was in uniform, he walked into a small nightclub. He sees a beautiful woman on stage singing. She has the same hair, voice, and presence as the woman that he remembered from his dreams. After she was done with her show, he knew that he had to meet her, he had to talk with her, and they hit it off. He knew in the back of his mind that they were destined for each other, that he would not dream about this woman in the way that he dreamed about her and then encounter her a few years later as a living flesh and blood person, unless there was something very special going on. So 3 days later, after they met, he asked her to marry him. And when he shared his experience with me, it was a decade later. They were still happily married. They had children and wonderful lives together. My friend Steve Ernenwein, Steve, if I hacked up your name, I'm sorry, buddy. My good friend Steve, who is the creator of the Activated Human Lighthouse system of self-exploration through lucid dreaming, told me that a spirit guide informed him twice while lucid dreaming that he would soon meet his wife, Erica. They told him that his future wife would be American and hot. They are now married and they have their first baby. At reddit.com, where I am the moderator, Radow, I spoke extensively with a guy who claimed to meet a woman in his dreams, and he found out her first and last name and details about a recent accident she had that required hospitalization. A few weeks after the dream, he was shopping for groceries and passed by a woman that looked just like the one in his dream. And before he could stop himself, he said her first name out loud as a question. Let's say her name is Julia. So he walks past random woman in grocery store, recognizes her from his dream, and says, "Julia?" She turns, looks at him kind of funny, and says, "Do I know you?" So then he said her last name, the name that was given to him in his dream, and it was correct. So he quickly played it off and said, "Oh, we must have met somewhere." So after that, they got together for coffee and conversation, and they found many things in common with each other. He kept to himself how he really knew her, like you say, "Oh, we met in a dream," or I know you because I saw you first in a dream, and what's going to be the reaction? Like, "Yeah, sure, we met in a dream, stalker." But, they got to know each other well enough, and he eventually felt comfortable to tell her the truth. And to his great surprise, she was fully accepting of this, that he had met her first in a dream, that he knew her first and last name because of the dream. And they ended up becoming very good friends. And that's the last I know. I followed up with him a few months later, and he said, "Well, we're still just friends, and I don't feel any need to go any further than that." Because most people think that soulmates are only about romantic love, but there are many ways, many forms of love. There are many types of relationships that we can have that are deeply soulful and loving. And that includes with people who are our friends. One other detail that he was shown in the dream about the accident that she had that required hospitalization, when he told her that this was something that the dream told him, she lifted up her shirt and showed him the scars on her back from an accident that she'd had that required hospitalization. Some coincidences are too coincidental to be coincidence. They are synchronicity. In this case, he had a detail from the dream, not only her first and last name, but something that had happened to her that she was able to confirm to him had really happened. I think there's a damn good reason why they met, and maybe in the end there will be more to their relationship. There will be a romantic side to it, but the lesson to learn here is don't force anything. Allow the relationship to just be what it is when you meet a soulmate. Just allow things to unfold naturally, and don't come at it with any preconceptions or expectations. When you dig into this subject, you might be surprised by how often you hear people hear their accounts of first meeting in dreams, then meeting in waking life. I have found this with pregnant mothers. They will know weeks, months, even years ahead of time that they're going to get pregnant. They will have a vision of their child or children that turns out to become reality. They will be told what to name their child. They will see their gender. They will see their hair color and eye color and shape of their face. Now, I do know that deep in the mind is a very powerful creative force, and that just because you dream about the details of a child that you're going to have does not automatically mean that it is coming from some cosmic force out there of creation. But now that I know that reincarnation is real and that we have existences between lives where we interact and plan our next lives in body with people who are important to us and have been important over time, I know that it is entirely possible that you can see in a dream someone who is going to be your child. It is going to be a soulmate who has decided to live with you again and to have a very deep and special relationship. It's not the easiest subject to bring up, though, because if you do not have personal experience with it, if you do not know the evidence that has been collected that supports it, then you are going out on a limb. And whenever you go out on a limb, that limb can break. You can bring this up in conversation and then meet with derision or skepticism. The right environment needs to be created to discuss these things, the environment for open sharing. And I will tell you something that comes from the famous remote viewer Ingo Swann. Ingo is a verified psychic. He was tested in laboratory environments. These studies of Ingo that were published created quite the splash in the world of the study of psychical phenomena back in the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s. And Ingo was recruited into the fledgling remote viewing program. In fact, Ingo invented it. And for the next 20 years, it was funded by the military and intelligence agencies because Ingo discovered that he could send his mind's eye anywhere that it was directed to, and that he could gain any information that he wanted, even the most top secret and hidden sorts of information. Ingo said that non-material phenomena can't be studied with the scientific method because the scientific method is meant to study material science. He said that we need a different approach to non-material science. Yet the guardians of scientific orthodoxy say that there is no such thing as non-material science, and they dismiss an entire spectrum of human experience with a haughty wave of their hand. We know that 95% or so of our universe is made of stuff that we cannot detect or measure. We've given it names such as dark matter and dark energy to mean simply we have no freaking clue what it really is. But 5% of the universe is something that we know very well. It's called matter. And we have a way of studying matter, of understanding it. It's called the scientific method, and it is very useful for studying 5% of the world, of the universe that we actually know. I'll throw this out there because I think it's very important for us to find a new way of studying phenomena that is non-material. I think that when we hear phrases such as love of your life and destiny and soulmates in popular culture, that it's easy to dismiss as wishful thinking, but there is a deeper truth hinted at, alluded to in the movie In a Dream. A woman is going about her life looking for the man to make it better, to make it complete. She sees this man, hints of him in a dream or in her dreams, but she doesn't know that he's already part of her life. And I won't give away the movie. It's a short movie. It's by Adina Kishanthi. And Adina, I'm so sorry if I hacked up your name. I've met Adina. We were on stage together at a film festival here in Tucson. She invited me to be part of this wonderful event where she was able to present her movie, and I was able to present to the audience my experience with dreams that come true and that you really can meet the love of your life in your dreams. And of course, I said that there are other possibilities for such dreams, but that it is healthy and wise to at least remain open-minded. In her movie, In a Dream, it taps into an artery of common human experience that we do not know enough about to tell the difference between wishful thinking and reality. I will say that I rely on the accuracy and honesty of people who report experiences like the ones that I have described. So proving that it's real is not like proving that gravity is real. But I think that a point comes when the preponderance of evidence weighs heavily on the, yeah, it's real side. And the individual accounts in this big picture do not matter as much as the big picture, as the collected work. So for those of you who are still skeptical, please remain skeptical. I think that's the right mindset to approach any subject, but keep an open mind. If you want a soulmate, you might already have one or more in your life and just need to recognize the deep bonds that connect you. I have found this to be a precursor to the romantic sorts of soulmate relationships. You recognize it first in your friendships, in your relationships with relatives. It's not to say that all of your friends or all of your relatives are connected to you by past lives. It is not to say that they are all soulmates, but some of them are. And when you recognize that deep bond and you learn to use that information to deepen your relationships with those people, there is a certain magic that comes into play that will then open doors for the love of your life, the person of your dreams to come into your life, or even for you to take the blindfold off and realize that you already have that relationship in your life. That's how it happened for me. That's how it can happen for you too. Thank you for sticking with me through this. It is a subject that I have gone into great depth with. It is very close to my heart. I hope that I have given you the information that you need to be able to proceed forward from here, from this point. You can go off on your own and discover that soulmates are real, that reincarnation is real. But with everything else in life, you have a choice what you accept as part of your reality or what you don't. It is always your choice. I am J.M. DeBoard. I wrote the book, The Dream Interpretation Dictionary, Symbols, Signs, and Meanings. It has an entry for soulmates. It has many other entries that you perhaps would not find in other dream dictionaries. I decided that I was going to turn the whole notion of a dream dictionary onto its ear, and I was going to use the popular dream dictionary format as a vehicle for teaching dream interpretation. And I think that I was successful at it. You can find the book at various retailers, Amazon, of course, but many other places too. I also wrote the book Dreams 1, 2, 3, Remember, Interpret, and Live Your Dreams. It is a much smaller book than the Dream Interpretation Dictionary, and it is an introduction to the 3 steps of dream work. Remember your dreams, interpret them, and then do something with the information. Make your dreams come true. Live your dreams. These are not just cliched marketing phrases. It's not just used by Disney or Princess Cruise Line to get you to use their products and services. There is a deep truth to them. You really can make your dreams come true. And the place where you need to start is in your dreams. If you really want to go further with this, of course you have my books, but I also offer online my teachings. Many of them are free and available. Dreams123.com is my entire D3 interpretation of, or system of dream interpretation spelled out. There's an entire course book worth of material there. You will have to dig into it and do a lot of reading, but it is well worth it. Or you can go to dreamschool.net. As of April 2018, this is still coming, but it's very close to being reality. I have created online courses for dream interpretation and analysis that I think will revolutionize, to a certain extent, the interpretation of dreams so that anybody can do it. You do not need a psychiatrist or a guru to teach you what your dreams mean. You are the best interpreter of your dreams. In fact, you already know what they mean, because subconsciously you create your dreams. And once you understand that fact and the reasons why, the purpose behind it, the many purposes behind it, you will look at your dreams in a whole new light. So I encourage you to explore. You can go to my blog site, dreams123.net, which has evolved over time into a teaching site, and you can find out more information there. Lots of knowledge that I share there. I thank you for joining me. I am J.M. DeBoard. I am Radal. See you next time.
Be strong. Be strong.